AITA for giving my son's dog to his ex-wife. To begin with, I love my son with all my heart. But he blew up his marriage by cheating and has moved back home. I have 55, have 3 children. My oldest is my daughter 30, then my twins 25 mf. My oldest just got married to a wonderful man. My younger daughter is going to grad school overseas, and that leaves my son. Let's call him Carlos. He has always been a handful. He got married when he was 20. His ex-wife had a 3-year-old daughter whom I love, and no matter what, I am her grandmother. They had a child together, my other grandchild. He is 2. COVID caused a lot of stress in his life, and he works in a fly-in fly-out camp job. He is gone for 2 weeks at a time. Then home for 2 weeks. He makes very good money and enjoys spending it. Maybe a little bit too much. Carlos cheated on his wife with a coworker. I am not judging him. I am not perfect. But he chose to leave his wife and children and move back home. It doesn't really make sense for him to rent an apartment or something for the 12 days a month he is home. So I allowed it. But he decided to be an ass, in my opinion, and bring his dog with him. My grandbabies love this dog. But he is trying to punish his ex for telling him to leave. It is a beautiful border collie, and it is the perfect dog for their home. Huge yard, lots of walking trails nearby, even an off-leash park only a 10-minute drive away. I live in an apartment downtown. I am allowed a dog, but if I were to have one, it would be something sedate and non-shedding like a Maltese. I swear I tried watching this dog. But my son is irresponsible. He doesn't walk him much. He doesn't brush the dog. He is just holding on to the dog to lever his way into his ex's life. The last straw was this last time off work. He was away for 2 weeks, ND then came home for 1 day before flying off to the United States for a vacation with his new girlfriend. So I called my dill, checked that she wanted the pup back, she almost cried with joy, packed up everything that belonged to the dog and took him over there. My grandchildren were ecstatic. My son just came home for 3 days before he has to leave for work and asked where his dog is. I told him the truth. He is calling me an asshole for giving away his pet. Also because I said that if he tried to go get the dog and bring it back, he was not welcome in my home. NTA, in my opinion. He's only thinking of himself. Not you, not the dog, and not his kids. Also, calling you an asshole? You're nice to let him back into your home at all after that. He has always been hot-headed. I love him, but he is a pain in my ass. I wish his father had been around longer to help raise him. I tried, but it was hard. Maybe you should take away the safety net and let him learn to take responsibility, and maybe he will finally grow up. Truth is, he is very much an adult now and sounds to be very self-centered. I understand as a loving mother, sometimes it's the instinct to try to save your kids. However, it's honestly, I don't think you are doing him any favors. You said he was always a hothead. Did you constantly need to save him as a kid, and if so, did that take a toll on you and your other kids? I understand it might have been hard raising a kid on your own, but maybe you need to question if you have been enabling him all this time. If you have been, it's really time to stop before it affects your grandkids. If you think he is neglecting the dog now, I would question if he treats his kids worse than the dog. At least he didn't abandon the dog like he did his family. Seems to me that your grandkids are better without him in their life. He'd rather go vacationing with his new GF than try and spend time with his kids. I don't see why he can't stay with his new GF on his time off, as she is clearly his priority. You say he earns good money, so why would he not be able to rent a room or small studio just to sleep? I'm not generally supportive of unilaterally giving away someone's pet, but I think it was entirely justified in this case. He brought it into your home without asking you, and he's literally never home to take care of it. He was intentionally making you, the dog, and his own children upset just to get back at his wife for not putting up with his cheating. Good job, Grandma. NTA. This? Definitely the right move. Everyone is better off this way. Your grandkids and their mother get their dog back. The dog goes back to a way more appropriate home with a family she loves, and you don't have to deal with a dog whose breed is known for going stir crazy if they don't have enough stimulation. Honestly, even your son is probably happier not having to deal with a dog he doesn't seem to care about, not that he was taking care of her anyway. All he loses is whatever sad satisfaction he got out of making sure his ex-wife and their kids were punished for making him leave. NTA times a million, op. You made the best call for literally everyone involved. NTA. Your son is a honestly, it does make sense for him to pay rent for a few days per month. Consequences for his horrible behavior are not a terrible thing. NTA. It wasn't his pet, he was never there and didn't care for the dog. It was a means of punishment for his ex. You did the right thing by the ex and the dog. AITA for denying my mom access to her grandson because she refuses to help me. My husband and I, 32F, are first-time parents to an 8-month-old son, Jack. I've struggled since he was born. I had a difficult pregnancy. My son had colic, and my maternity leave was short. I was diagnosed with PPD and am getting treatment. My husband and I both have demanding jobs. I'd love to quit, but we can't afford it right now. I don't have many friends in the state where we live, and I'm lonely. My mill is in poor health, and my husband is gone 2x per week helping her. I haven't had a day or evening off since Jack was born. Plus, our home was flooded by a broken pipe 5 months ago. Handling the cleanup has been a nightmare. My mom, 67F, lives 1 hour away and has never once offered to help with anything. We've always had a pretty good relationship. She was a stay-at-home mom and was very loving and devoted to my brother, sister, and me. She's an empty nester and spends her days doing yoga and seeing friends. My mom wants to see the baby if it's very low effort. I asked her a few times if she could babysit or run an errand, but she always says no. Once I called her at the height of my PPD sobbing, saying I was scared to be alone and could she come over. But she had brunch plans. I stopped asking for anything until today. My best friend of 25 plus years is getting married next weekend in State B, which is 2 hours away by plane. I'm the maid of honor and my husband is officiating. Children are not invited because the venue is unsafe. About 7 months ago we started looking for someone to watch Jack. We called everyone we could think of. After a month of searching, we finally found a babysitter in State B through a friend of a friend. Well, the babysitter called on Friday and cancelled. I've spent the past 3 days calling childcare agencies with zero luck. I finally explained my desperation to my mom and asked if she could watch Jack for 24 hours. Or I offered to fly my mom to State B with us, get her a hotel room, and she'd then only need to watch him for 5 hours. I was in tears begging her, but my mom said no. She has a yoga class she doesn't want to cancel. It was the straw that broke the camel's back after months of no empathy as I flounder with PPD. I told my mom that since she is never willing to help ever, I will be cutting off all contact and she won't get to see her grandson. I know my mom is under no obligation to help us, but then she should not expect to see my son. AITA for denying my mom a relationship with her grandson because she never offers to help. You're going to have a whole lot of teenagers and libertarians telling you you're because your mother isn't legally obliged to help you, therefore you're the bad guy. Please ignore them. In the real world, relationships are reciprocal and depend on a lot of elements and require cultivation. If we neglect relationships, or if we only take and never give, they wither and die. And the give-take isn't always symmetrical in the moment. It's over long periods, even lifetimes, and often means paying it forward. We are cared for as children, we care for our children, our parents help with our children, we help our parents. Your mother has chosen to opt out of all that by declining to help you when you need it. She doesn't have to be in that cycle of help and love and support if she'd rather go to her yoga class. But she doesn't get to cherry-pick the easy bits of a loving family relationship and ignore the bits that take work. You are both entitled to set down the terms of your relationship. She has. Now you are. I'm sorry this is painful, and I hope you get effective help with the PPD. NTA. Exactly this. My mother made it very clear that she was not gonna be a second mom to my kids and that she expected her boundaries and freedom to be respected. If I called her crying in the middle of the night because I couldn't cope anymore, she would cross oceans to get to me. When my kids were a baby and toddler and things were exhausting and stressful, a friend of mine tried to end things. Very bad. Then she called me a fortnight after the attempt, in distress. I was alone with the kids. So I threw the baby in the sling, picked up the toddler, and hauled arse across London with them to get to her because she needed help and she'd called me. And that's my friend. My daughter? As you say, I'd swim oceans. Op's mom wouldn't do that for her daughter? And people think she's the off for not letting this person develop a relationship with the child, which will inevitably end with the kid in bewildered tears because granny couldn't be bothered to make an effort. NTA, it's one thing to refuse to babysit or run an errand or whatever, but when your child, and the fact you're an adult doesn't matter, calls you crying, saying they are terrified of being alone and are clearly in distress, and you choose brunch. No. Just no. I would have cut my parent off for that right there. NTA, honestly, I was kind of expecting this to make you sound incredibly entitled. Except you don't. I kind of get where your mom is coming from. She put in the work. She raised her children, likely at the expense of her needs being met, and now she wants to enjoy her golden years and be a low-responsibility grandparent. Good for her. You were literally having a health crisis, and one of the people in your life who you should be able to rely on to support you has simply disappeared. This doesn't sound like the actions of someone who's entitled. It sounds like someone who is at the end of their rope and this was the final straw. Well, good for you. Is this maybe an overreaction? Maybe. But I also get where you're coming from. And the fact that she couldn't be there for you during a serious health crisis is what kind of did it for me.